Thanks for joining us today. It's great to have you here at NASDAQ.
Good to see you, Ben.
Obviously interesting to hear your perspectives on the oil and gas companies of the future panel, which you just joined, looking at profitability versus sustainability, which comes first. So it'd be good to delve into some of those discussion points in a little bit more detail here. So to get down to the point, you joined Engine No.1 about a year and a half ago to build a private investment vehicle focused on the sector due to the outflow of capital that the sector had experienced and the opportunities that this presents. While the number of private equity firms participating in energy has declined, the opportunity set remains robust, and there are a good number of opportunities out there for PE players that are willing to put money to work. So let's get to the point. What opportunities does this outflow of capital present to somebody like you and a firm like Engine No.1, and where are you seeing the opportunity to generate the most attractive risk-adjusted returns?
So as we talked about, on the panel, right, the outflow of capital is creating a mispricing of assets in the traditional natural resource and energy value chain, right? So an awful lot of capital has been raised, private equity capital has been raised under the banner of energy transition, right? And as we were talking about the panel, the energy transition industry, if you call it that, is not mature enough, right, to absorb all of that private equity capital, right? It's really more of a growth equity, venture capital styled industry today. And so given that capital that was directed towards the traditional part of the value chain has moved to this sort of more growthy or venture piece of the value chain, that's created an opportunity, right, for capital to be redeployed into the traditional value chain on an attractive risk-adjusted return basis. And that's where at Engine No.1 we're spending a lot of time, right? The point we made earlier on the panel is like we live in this world that wants to decarbonize and yet needs traditional forms of natural resources for decades to come. The capital flight that you've mentioned is creating a dislocation that, as an investor, is a compelling investment opportunity.
Okay, fantastic. And when we've caught up in the past, you've spoken about this notion of migrating assets from the old world to the new world.
Right.
Do you want to comment on that and just explain how that determins your approach towards energy sector investing?
If you think about the critical bottleneck, or what will be the critical bottleneck in the energy transition, it's the installed asset base or the real assets that will be the backbone of this new economy or new ecosystem that we're building, right? So whether it be, we gave the example of green hydrogen in the panel, but think about carbon capture, right? Carbon capture can be advanced through leveraging cement manufacturing or chemical manufacturing assets in a different way. Imagine trying to build or permit a chemical manufacturing site, literally anywhere in the country. Again, it's be very challenging to do from a permitting perspective. But if you own the installed asset base, put capital work behind those assets to actually transition them, to take something that today creates, a petrochemical, but over time can be used to create renewable plastics or things like that, you are actually delivering transition, and you're doing it in a different way from a risk-return profile, because you're not really betting on the technology, you're betting on the infrastructure. The infrastructure is the bottleneck, the infrastructure that generates cash and capital today that can be reinvested into the infrastructure over time to deliver this outcome.
Okay, fantastic. And I think also I mentioned it earlier in the day and commented on it when we opened up the assembly, but over the past 12 months or so, or 12 to 18 months, I think we've seen a change in the narrative, with energy transition perhaps being referred to more specifically as energy addition or energy diversification, as people recognize that fossil fuels and hydrocarbons aren't going away anytime soon. We need more energy. In many respects, energy transition investment opportunities are not yet mature enough to attract private equity capital. You've mentioned the dislocation in the market. We haven't seen many commercial hydrogen or nuclear or recycling projects proven at scale yet we have seen, as you alluded to, all this PE capital being raised.
Right.
What's the risk here? Where is this capital supposed to go? How do we change the narrative to ensure that we don't have this mispricing of risk moving forward?
The risk here is a fundamental mispricing of capital or risk being deployed into this sector, right? An awful lot of, as we said earlier, traditional private equity has been raised and now must find a home. But private equity as an asset class is designed to deliver a specific objective, scaling a proven commercial concept or product. That doesn't exist yet. It will one day, doesn't exist yet in the energy transition. So the risk is LP dollars have been aggregated and deployed in a way that I think is different from how certain investors might think that capital is being deployed. And that's an opportunity, right? That goes back to this infrastructure and real asset point that I'm trying to make, which is that that sector is mature, right? That is a capital-intensive, large dollar needed part of the value chain that can actually be transitioned today and over time as these technologies are proven out. But you're not picking winners or losers in terms of the technologies. You're buying the bottleneck, the infrastructure, the real assets. And as the industry evolves and the technologies are proven up, you'll apply that technology to these assets to deliver the solution.
Okay, fantastic. And just to wrap it up then, taking the first question that was put to you on the panel, what does come first, sustainability or profitability?
You're right. As I said, neither, right? Because as an investor, my job, our job as investors, is to deliver value. So the answer to that question is value. And in my mind, profitability and sustainability are tools, different tools, but equal tools to deliver that objective, which is value creation. So the quick sort of analogy or cartoon I was trying to sketch on the panel is like building a house, right? So the house I'm trying to build is value. And it's like asking in building a house, do I prefer, a hammer or a screwdriver? Depends on what I'm doing at the time, but I need both of those tools to deliver the objective. And that's true with this question as well. You can't just pursue profitability for profitability's sake, right? If you're just gonna cut corners, cut costs, dump the waste into the river, that's gonna impact firms' value, right? That might be the cheapest way to do it, but that's not the best in terms of creating value. The other side of that coin is you could do something that is the cleanest thing ever, but it is grossly uneconomic and destroys value. So you can't pursue either of those, or one doesn't come before the other. They're both tools that need to be used, lenses that need to be sort of leveraged in this broader quest of creating value.
Brilliant. Well, Erik, appreciate your insights.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the time.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as
Thanks
always.
for doing this.